Hi, good morning. My name is Rinaldo J. Aguiar Marcano, and today is September 29th, Monday, September 29th, 2025, and it's 8:05 a.m. U.S. Central Time. And I am located at my home at the 26714 Valleyside Drive, Katy, Texas, 77494. 77494, yes. So today, this morning, this video is part of the series rapid fire tips for law enforcement that I've been working on since probably May this year. And I have a series of updates that I wanted to record. So I'm making this quick session. It's I as always, right? I don't script my demos, but I do cluster things together, right? So today I have a few things that have been, developing in the last 2 weeks, I would say, and the clustering is not very good. Like there's things that are from all over the place, but and I guess probably because of that is that I haven't mentioned them, right? Because I haven't found a good demo to fit them in. But they're accumulating, and I might forget, right? So I'm going to deliver them in this session. But before I get to that, I'm going to start with one that I think is time sensitive because I see my safety at risk with this. So I'm going to say it first, and then I'm going to. So the first observation is from yesterday, very recent, and it's not part of this, on cluster updates. But then I'm going to deliver the on cluster updates. So this thing that I think it's kind of a bit of a risky situation that is developing, and so I'm gonna start with that. And when I say these things, it's because I have experience with these people, right? And I know how they think, and I know how they operate, and I can foresee what they're going to do, right? I don't know if viewers would recall when I recorded a demo in which I talked about this hypothetical game, right, called Human Systems. If you haven't watched that segment, I recommend. I caught it, and it's in YouTube. Just that segment. I recommend it. I think it's very illustrative of what they do, right? So in that segment, I made a comment, right? When I was doing QA of the video, I saw what I said, and it resonated with me, right? I said something to the effect that, when you see what your adversary is picking, you can foresee what he's going to do with that. And then the next logical step is that you would take steps that could protect you from what the adversary is planning, right? And I said something to the effect of, well, that's what I've been doing over the last 5 years, right? My life over the last 5 years has been exclusively dedicated to foreseeing what they will do and then taking steps to prevent them from doing it to harm me, right? That's what I've been doing over the last 5 years, not even full time, like more than full time. Like this takes 120 hours per week, right? Instead of the regular 40 hours per week that people normally work, right? So I have to be basically 24/7 thinking about how to prevent them from harming me, right? So yeah, so the situation that is developing is the following, right? The Fulshear Police Department is getting more and more and more, I would say, effective, right, at following me at specific places, right? And this has been developing for the last 3 weeks. So the first instance was, well, this was actually for Bend Police, right? But it's the same, right? I think like 2 Fridays ago, I was going to the federal court to file some important documents, right, related to the class action lawsuit, and to the temporary restraining order I filed to try to preclude the judge from signing the unconstitutional order that would strip me from my parental rights. So as I'm driving, on Cinco Ranch Boulevard, a police officer stopped me, right? There's nothing wrong with the stopping. I mean, if he has legit reasons to stop me, that's fine. But he stopped me, and then he told me that he was stopping me because I had blue lights, and this is recorded in my videos and in his body camera, I assume, right? His body cam, the Axiom body cam that he had. He said, and I quote, that I had blue police lights installed in the vehicle, and that's why he was stopping me. To which I said, they're not blue police lights, they're white lights, and they're not police lights, they're civilian lights. So, I mean, the whole reason for the stop was invalid, right? So, and then I offered to show him the lights, and I turned them on, and he could see that they were white lights. And he said, well, okay, yes, they're white lights. Give me a second. And he took my driver's license and went to the back of so he didn't get inside of his car. He stood outside of his car, I imagine, because the car probably has recording equipment and he didn't want somebody to record his conversation. But he took out his phone, his personal phone, which was weird because I imagine if this is an official police business, he should use the police communication systems, like the radio he has in the car. That's why they have a radio, right? Why he was making that call in a cell phone is beyond me. But he made that call, and I could see that he was making the call from outside his vehicle, right? And he was like standing there. I didn't listen to what he said, but then he came back, right? And he said, listen, I called my supervisor, and my supervisor said that even if they're white lights, you are impersonating a police officer. So I'm going to give you a citation. And he gave me a citation for October 28th, right? I was in a hurry to get to the court because I want to recover my child. So I didn't argue. Yeah, give me the citation. I'll go to the court, right? Okay, that's fine. But this is, I think, right? It's just seeding the narrative that I'm impersonating a police officer, which is what Phil Denning said when he filed the false police report like 6 months ago, more in November, when I bought the car. Like a few days after I bought the car, he filed that false police report in combination with the security guard at Lake Point State, who also accused me of impersonating a police officer, right? Which is not true. But this is what they do, right? They interpret the law always in a way that hurts the adversary, but they don't apply the same interpretation for them, right? All the Weber vehicles that are working on the roads in Katy, Weber is an important company of this network, of Teodoro Cabello, probably. All of them have exactly the same lights, right? And the police is not stopping those vehicles. Anyhow, so that's fine. That was the first thing that happened, right? And I have to say, right, I've been driving since I'm 18 years old. And I've been driving in the US since I came to the US, right? I can tell you, in the last 5 years, I've been stopped by the police once in 5 years, right? Yes, I think that was more than 5 years ago. I would say in 5 years, the only time I was stopped by the police was when Officer Bannett stopped me when I was driving with Penelope on the passenger seat, and he stopped me to photograph the inner setup that I had in the call mobile. So in 5 years, I've been stopped by the police once, right? And it wasn't a violation. He stopped me because my license was supposedly not visible enough, my license plate. Anyhow, that's a funny story. Before he stopped me, because Penelope Suarez was next to me, right? So I'm at a stop, and she starts talking about my license plate not being, because I had just bought the car, right? And they put one of those paper temporary license plates on a bag, on a plastic bag. And the bag was like, there was some humidity in the bag, right? Because, the weather. So she had been talking that morning about how my license plate was not visible, right? And she warned me that I could be stopped. Then we're driving on the truck, and I'm at a stop sign. And as soon as I leave the stop sign, she says, "Oh, that police officer stopped you." I hadn't seen any police officer, and I look at all the mirrors, and I don't see the police officer. This is documented in the website, like since months, maybe a year ago, right? So I look at all the mirrors and I don't see any police officer. And 3 seconds later, the sirens came up and I saw the police officer. So Penelope had developed precognition. She knew 3 seconds before it happened that the police stopped me. Right? And then the police came and asked me, he was obviously looking around to see what I had in the car. And, he had the camera recording the interior of the car. Anyhow, so that was the first time the only time I got a stop in the last 5 years, right? The next time, I think it was that Friday when I was going to the federal court, right? Because it's important, right? Like they wanted to know what is that I had in, I imagine, right? Like they wanted to, it's a double purpose thing. They wanted to see what is that I had in the car to see if they could see the documents, right? What was I going to file? They knew I was going to the court, but they didn't know what was exactly going to file in the court. And if they could know that, say 1 hour, 2 hours in advance, it could be important because if it's something too damaging, they could do something to prevent me from filing the documents, right? So I think that was part of it. And the second part was to get the recording in the camera that I was, quote unquote, impersonating a police officer to legitimize the police report that Phil Denning made, which is a false police report, right? It's a crime. So they want to seed something that gives reasonable doubt that it wasn't false, that it was a legit concern, right? Because a police officer had exactly the same comment. Right? If it's coming from a police officer, that I'm impersonating a police officer, that lends credibility to what Phil Denning said, right? So I think that was the same thing that Morgan Heimler did in the hearing. Like they're trying to protect Phil Denning, right? Because of the immense liability that he carries and his connection to Mueller and to Diosdado Cabello. So, and Swisher, right? Mark Swisher. So that was the play, right? But that's fine. I mean, I don't see my life at risk because of that. But yesterday, Sunday, September 28th, in the same day, in 2 separate occasions, I feel harassed by the police, right? So this is what happened. I am upgrading the surveillance system of the Mobile, right? I documented this in some other places. I'm upgrading the camera system, right? Instead of using the GoPros, I'm installing a wired security camera system to, get better data. So on Sunday was the first time that I went out to do a field test with the new setup, right? Before it's finalized, because, I'm not going to run all the cables through all the car and do all that work to then figure out that there's something bad with the design. So what I do, I kind of set it up temporarily, right? In a temporary way, like I can move things around if I need to. And then after I test it and I know that it works well, right? Then I finalize the setup and I make it look more professional, right? But right now it looks a little bit improvised, right? So I go out and I get into the church because it's Sunday. And this church, the Second Baptist Church, that is, I don't know, like a mile away from my home. Let me show you which one. It's a prominent hub, right? Like, and I sent the book to the pastor and everything. So let me show you 1 second. And I'm sorry that because I don't script these things. I don't have, like the sharing setup and all that. So it will take me just a second. Okay. Okay, so this is my home, right? Where I'm right now. So this Second Baptist Church is this one. Sorry. Okay, so it's this one over here. Yeah, so it's called Second Baptist Church, 1463 campus. And it's at 5757. Note the double bigram hit. So this is a level 2 church, right? 1463, Katie Texas 77494. And when I say level 2, that means the query write scoring technologies that I described in the previous demo. Please consult with a Google engineer on the query write team for more details. So this is what happened, right? This is as you can see in the background, this is an important network hub. And you can also see that by looking at the buffer zones, right? Like you can see on the north of this church, this is this immense, lot that it's unoccupied. So that's the FBI cannot get close to the church, right? On the west side, there is a major road, which makes it important. And there is not even a sidewalk, right? So it's impossible for anybody to walk perpendicularly to the church. And on the south side, they have this immense parking lot, you see? And the same principle, right? Like in this street, there's no stores, nothing that could justify a person walking there, right? And that street is always under construction. It's been like, this segment of the FM 1463, it's continuously for years under construction, right? That is to create a situation in which nobody can walk through that area, right? And on the right side, so on the east side of the church, is this neighborhood, which is completely under the control of the Cerro Cabello, right? And this is where they have me right now. Like this is where they sold me the house in 2014, surrounded by all these people, right? So on Sunday, I go to that church, and because it was before 9 a.m. and there was a lot of cars, and there were two important cars in that parking lot. One of them is that old sedan that looks like a police car from the 90s that has been documented in the book, in the website, in YouTube, in multiple places, right? An important agent. So as soon as I get into the parking lot, the cameras detected a police officer, well, a police car, right? From, I think the model detected it as being Fulshear because the colors are different. So programmatically, my system thinks it was Fulshear police. It might be wrong, right? Like it's, I don't recall the confidence of the prediction, but so the police officer came, and this is recorded in my cameras, right? And I imagine this car has a GPS and a tracking system, and this can be, tracked who was that police officer. So he came on this intersection. I'm going to give the coordinates: 29.70927 minus 95.84598. He came speeding through that, and came inside of the church, and I was scanning this area over here. The white sedan that I'm describing was parked, I think, around here, around 29.70851 minus 95.84567. So I'm scanning that area, right? Recording with the new cameras to test the precision of the system with the new setup. The police officer comes immediately into the parking lot speeding. And I see, right? Like, as I said at the beginning, I can foresee what is that they're going to do with that, right? What they're going to do is, well, this is kind of, this has a twofold, okay? So the strategic goal is that I stop scanning the parking lots. Why? Well, because obviously they have to park the cars somewhere where they can watch them, right? This is the weakness of their system. They can have these cars parked anywhere where the FBI could, record them, or they have to park them in control areas like this parking lot, right? So it's a vulnerability. And they know that I scan these parking lots because I've been doing this for a year. I've been scanning those parking lots for a year, right, at this point. And never the police has stopped me. But this Sunday, the police officer, he didn't stop me, right? But I foresee that what they're going to do is that they're going to stop me in one of these parking lots. And I'm saying this because if they do this, right, and harm me in the process, and I foresaw that weeks or months in advance, well, it's the same thing that happened with Morgan Hagler, right? That means that it was premeditated, because otherwise, how could I have known what they were going to do? But what I think, the threat that they're posing with that, right? They're telling me, if you scan if you keep scanning, getting into the parking lots, we're going to stop you using the police, right? And the police, what I foresee is going to happen, the police is going to tell me that I can't be recording in this parking lot because this is a private property, right? Which is not true. All Tesla vehicles in the world have 5 cameras with night vision, high resolution cameras, right? And all the Tesla vehicles are recording all the time, right? But this is exactly what they do. They interpret the law in a way that hurts their opponents, but they don't apply the same interpretation to their operations, right? Or to their agents. So what I foresee is going to happen is that they're going to make that argument, right? The police officer that's going to stop me in one of these parking lots or getting out of one of the parking lots, yeah, I think it's going to be getting out. He can't stop me inside of the parking lot because it's a private property, precisely, right? He can't, I mean, it would be an illegal stop. So he's going to stop me when I leave the parking lot. And he's going to tell me that outside of the parking lot, right? Yeah, I imagine. And then, the threat is that if I make a comment to the officer, or I make a wise comment, or I defy the authority, the officer is going to try to arrest me, right? And in that, if there's an altercation with the officer, I might end up getting hurt, right, or getting shot. So it's a situation that I see danger in because these people are armed. They're carrying guns, and I'm unarmed, right? So that's the threat, right? I don't know if they're going to actually do it. I imagine they won't. But the threat that they could do it would preclude me or would stop me from keep scanning the parking lots, which is what at the end they want, right? So this happened yesterday, 9 a.m., okay? Then I go to Lake Point Estates and I did a few things. And one of the things I did is that I unmounted the Starlink antenna. You have 2 Starlink antennas, right, at Lake Point Estates. And I did this to have 2 networks so they couldn't spy on the other connection with the Netflix and all that. So I took the 2 antennas I have. One is a standard and the other one is what they call the high performance, right? This is a very high-end antenna. The antenna alone cost me, I think, like $2,500, something like that, $3,000. It's a very expensive antenna. I took that one and I mounted it on top of the call model, okay, as part of the new setup. And so that's one thing I did, right, during the day. And then during the night, I went to my former partner's apartment, which is coincidentally or not coincidentally right at the corner, right, from this church that I'm talking about. So if you keep going north on 1463, you will find that apartment complex, which is where they have Marcel, right here. This is the apartment, right? This is the apartment complex. They keep changing the name of the apartment complex. I don't know why they do that. I mean, the coordinates of the actual apartment are 29.71913 longitude minus 95.85150. So what happened was during the night, and I have, you remember, the new setup and the antenna mounted on top of the call mobile. I came to this complex to deliver some things to her. And since I'm inside, I scanned all the cars inside of I drove around the parking lot, right? And my cameras are mounted on the vehicle. So, the same thing that would happen if I was driving a Tesla. If you drive a Tesla, the Tesla would record everything, right? Well, my car also record everything. And then as soon as I leave, right, the complex, and I go back on Fulshear Bend Drive, right when I'm in front of this Chase Bank, right, which is also an important part of this network, I got the red traffic light. Okay, of course, I always get the red traffic light, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I get the red traffic light, and of course, they have 4 or 5 vehicles at the red light waiting for me to arrive to intercept my traffic, right? My cookie, trying to steal my cookie, download the audio, like all the things that they do at once, right? So because I know that, I stop short, meaning park my car like 100 feet, 200 feet away from where they have the cars waiting for me, right? So because of the range, they can't intercept anything. So I put the blinkers on safely, pulled on to the right, and stop there for seconds. I would say 20 seconds, right? Immediately, a police officer from the Fulshear police department stopped me, right? Again, on the same day. So again, this is important. In 5 years, no police officer has stopped me, except Bani, when he was working with Penelope Suarez, and she developed precognition. And yesterday, 2 times in a day. Well, the other one didn't stop me, but I think he was going to stop, right? If I didn't leave, he would have stopped, right? I left the parking lot of the church, like they accomplished what they wanted, right? That I couldn't keep scanning the vehicles. So they deterred me in the morning with the police, right? And then in the night, as soon as I left the parking lot, the police stopped me, right? And then he stops me and he tells me that I can't be on the side of the road because I'm stopping traffic. And that's not true. Like, you know, well, I don't know. Maybe in Fulshear it is true. I don't know. But from every single driving safety course I've taken, including the ones I took at PDVSA, at Petróleos de Venezuela, the old company of, you know, Diosdado Cabello. In all those courses, they always tell you that if you feel that the driving conditions are unsafe, you should pull to the right, park the vehicle, and put the blinkers on, right? But this police officer stopped me and told me that I was stopping traffic, blocking traffic, right? And he told me that I could not do that and that I should keep driving, right? The opposite of what every safety course tells you. Again, it's the same pattern. Like they interpret the law in a way that hurts the adversary. Why? Well, because if I keep driving, I will have to get to the traffic light where they have Diosdado Cabello has 5 vehicles waiting for me, right? So of course, if I follow his interpretation of the law, I will be in a position of danger, right? Because they will intercept my cookies, and by knowing what I'm talking about and knowing, you know, where I'm going, and that puts me in danger, right? And of course, the police officer, while he was telling me this, he was more interested in what I had inside of the vehicle. He was looking at the screens that I had in the vehicle and the computers, and like he was obviously gathering information, right? I'm not going to start an argument with the police officer because I know that could end up in me being arrested or shot, right? So I said, yes, officer, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it again, right? And then he let me go. He didn't even ask for my driver's license or anything. He let me go. And then I make a right in this traffic light, right? And because he told me that I should park in a parking lot, I took this entrance to this parking lot and I parked more or less around here. I'm going to give you the coordinates, 29.71690, longitude minus 95.84647. As soon as I parked there, in less than 2 seconds, the same police officer pulled into the same parking lot and parked next to me. He didn't stop me. He didn't talk to me, but he parked his vehicle exactly next to mine. It's harassment. Like, he already told me to park in a parking lot. I did exactly what he did. Why does he have to follow me into that parking lot and park next to me, right? It's harassment. That's what it is. They're harassing me with the police at this point. And I've seen this before, right? Like when Phil Denning made that false police report saying that I was impersonating a police officer, it was because what they were doing with the HOA, harassing me with the HOA, stopped working. Like I sent them a do not contact me notice to him and the HOA saying, do not email me anymore, right? After I did that, he dispatched the police officer with the false police report. So I know already that this is the next logical step in their playbook, right? When the legal maneuvers and harassment doesn't work, which is what is happening with Morgan Heibner, right? I have her basically against the ropes, like she has nowhere to go at this point, put down. When that happens, then they engage the sheriff, right? So now it's going to be with the sheriff. So, of course, as I said, I see risk in this situation because all of them, all the police officers are armed, right? And they have discretionary power to use force for any reason, right? They will find any excuse to use force, right? So that's why I thought I should, mention these things because it was 2 incidents in the same day, right? And it's the same thing. It's using the institutions to coerce citizens into submission. That's what they're doing, right? In this case, I think it's more grave because it's law enforcement what they're using, right? It's not lawyers, it's law enforcement. And these people are armed, they carry guns all day, right? And have discretionary use of force. And to take away even my liberty, right? They could put me in jail. So it's a situation that I see is escalating, right? So I thought I should mention it. Yes, I have other technical updates, but I think I'm going to not dilute this session, because I think it's important to note that they're escalating to engaging the law enforcement agents of their network to harass me, right? So I'm going to just cut this session here. In case anything happens to me, it's easier for authorities to process this information, okay? And I'll make another session with technical updates. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.